Hi everybody, this is Dan, and I'm a DIYer just like you. So I'm going to do this project, and I thought I'd do a video on it. It's putting crown molding on top of my existing cupboard, but I'm not one of those professionals. I'm one of those guys just like you that not quite sure you know what you're doing. You watch a bunch of YouTube videos, and that's exactly what I've done. And I've compiled what I think the best of them to go ahead and do this project.
So one of the things that is the hardest things when doing crown is taking your measurement. Step one is to divide each segment by a letter. So that right there would be segment A, that little one would be B, right there would be a C, and then this longer one would be D, and over here would be E. Okay, now I'm going to give you the details on how I measure each of those pieces. The first thing I do, I'll take the tape measure. I'll look at where that piece butts up to the other angled one, and then where it comes right here to the angled one, and you can see it's exactly 30 inches long. So that's where I get my length. Next, I'm going to show you how I get the angle. I take my angle finder and I set it up here. I push these two pieces together, so it's a 45.2. I'm going to call that 45. But because that angle right there shares two pieces of crown, I have to divide that by 2. So those are going to be 22.5 degrees, and that's an inside miter. Now over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll push these tight. It says 44.8. I'm going to call that a 45. Again, it's going to share two pieces of miter right there. So I got to divide that by 2, so I get 22.5. What piece D looks like. The left side is an inside miter at 22.5 degrees. The length is 30. And the right cut is an outside miter at 22.5. Okay, I'm out in my garage, and this is really going to make some of the professionals cringe, but hey, this is what I'm doing. So this is my good piece. Like I said, this cost me about $80 to $100, I think, when I bought the cupboard. It's an exact match to the stain. It's fantastic wood, but it only comes in 8-foot sections. So there's always that time when, no matter how hard I try and plan things, when I get done, there's usually something that was a little off. And I wish I could go back and say, man, if I could have just fixed that one, it would have turned out perfect. So this is the part. I went out and bought this piece of crown right here at Home Depot. It was $1.50 a foot. I needed 8 feet. It was a little bit longer than what I actually need. But so it cost me $12. And I'm actually going to cut all my pieces, glue them all together, and see if they fit. If it works out perfectly, fantastic. But if it allows me to catch a mistake that I would have made on my good piece, and I wish I would have learned from, then it's well worth the $12. If you've heard anything about crown molding or watching the YouTube, you're going to hear this phrase: cut it upside down and backwards. That normally makes most of us run to a professional and pay for this job, but I think I found a way that can simplify that process. So let's do the upside down part. First of all, what is the bottom of a crown molding? And it's generally the part that has the most design. So that is the bottom. So if we're going to cut it upside down, that's going to go on the top on the fence. Once you get it on the fence, you want to roll it until this piece is flat, which is really the ceiling side, and the wall side is flat to your fence. You can really feel it once you roll it, and it kind of just, it falls right into place. It locks in. Once you have that locked in like that, then you want to make a little jig, which I would say is essential. You can buy these jigs, or you can make your own like I did. You get your crown into position, you push your jig up, and then in my case, because I'm a DIYer just like you, I want to put a couple holes in my workbench to hold it in place. Now, whenever I have to cut my crown, pretty much just drops in there, and I know that I'm right where I'm supposed to be on my spring angle. Okay, I think we got the upside down part right. But once you turn the trim or the crown molding upside down, then you got to understand that when you cut the board, you're cutting, the right side becomes the left side and the left side becomes the right side. This is the part that scares the heck out of us, and this is the way I've come to understand it best. So I've cut 8 pieces, 8 short 6-inch pieces like this, and I've started cutting them in my jig so that I'm going to end up having a left outside miter at 22.5, left outside miter at 45, a right inside miter at 45, a right outside miter at 22.5. So I'm going to end up having all of the cuts, and this is how I do it. So now that the jig is in place, I just take my trim, again, my crown, turn it upside down, put it in the jig, and then you're going to have to either look down here or count your clicks on your saw to know that I'm putting it at 22.5. I'll go ahead and make that cut. Once you make that cut, remember I cut it upside down, so it's going to go on the cabinet like this. So now this is going to be the left side. So at an outside miter at 22.5 degrees. So I'm going to write left outside miter 22.5 degrees. In the end, I'll have 8 of those pieces that I'm going to use to make sure I'm making the right cut. Okay, I'm ready to cut piece B. So my very first cut is going to be the left outside miter at 45 degrees. I pulled my template. I know by looking at it this way, that's what it should be, but I got to cut it this way. So it's going to be on this side. I'm going to swing my saw all the way around, so that when I'm done, I know I'm going to get this cut right here. That's what the template's for. So I can get rid of the template now, because I know my saw's in the right spot. I'm going to come down here, put it in the jig. Now, I'm going to go on to the measurement of 8 3/4 inches. Again, we're going to measure from the bottom side. So at 8 3/4, I'm going to come right in here. Got it right on the mark, 8 3/4. This is where you can, because you got to transfer that mark to the front so you can see it. So you can use a square here, just so you get a nice straight line coming down. And then from there, just put a little mark on the top. Now that's going to be my right cut, remember, so if you turn it over, it's going to be my right cut, and on my right cut, I need a right side inside miter at 22.5 degrees. So, I go to my template, I find my right inside miter at 22.5, I put that in there. Of course, I'm putting it in upside down, but that's at 45, so now I got to pull it back to 22.5. I'll just kind of test it. Yep, that's the cut I need. So now I drop this in. I find my mark. I'm right there. I'm going to leave it a little bit long just in case. I can always come back. So now I have my piece. My left side is a 45 outside miter. It's 8 3/4 inches long, and my inside, my right side is an inside miter at 22 1/2. And I'll keep going and mark my pieces on the back so I'll glue them together when I'm all done. So I've already got A and B done, and it's because of these little templates that I've made that it doesn't require me to really think about where it's going to go or try to turn my head upside down and try to figure this out. Just taking the time to make these templates is what really makes the difference. Okay, so I went down all my cut pieces and I've cut them all. Over here you can see I've labeled them on the back, A, B, C, D, and E. I'm just going to start with A and B, and over here I'm going to show you how I glue them together. And by gluing these pieces together, you really get the professional look I think that you're looking for, because you're not putting them up on the cupboards and gluing them, you're doing it from down here. So you can see if you're a little off, you can really straighten it out here. And the best glue that I've found to use this is called CA glue. And you can get it in a lot of different places, but you just put it on this side here. Put this glue on this side. And I just smear it around a little bit. And then on this side, you gotta act fast once you get going on it. This is the activator. You get that wet. And then when you come to pour it together, you don't have much time. But you try to get it in there so that you get a nice tight seal. Hold it for about 10 seconds. This stuff's pretty strong, so it's not a bad fit. Okay, so I went ahead and glued all the pieces together, and you can get a close up so you can see they glued together pretty nice. Here it fell apart, so I used a file, and I re-glued it, so you can see it's not as good. But all the other miters turned out really good. So I guess you can get it all in one piece and put it up. So I'm going to try it now. Oh yeah. So it looks like it's going to fit just perfectly. So my next step would be to grab my penny nailer, put it on my air compressor, and just go around and tack it in. This is all paint grade, so I can use a little putty on that bad spot there, but I think it will turn out just fine. Again, that's just scrap. I spent $10.50 on that to give it a try. This is what I'm actually going to put up. So what I just did, I'm going to redo with the good stuff, and then I'll come back and show you the finished product. Okay, I finally put up the trim, and I want to show you how it turned out. Pretty happy with it. The miters I thought turned out pretty good. Seeing some spots there. There were a lot of angles here that had to all come together, but all in all, really happy with how tight they came out, and the overall job was fantastic. So special props to that guy in Texas. He comes on as DFW. He's a finished carpenter, and he's really willing to share so much information. Really helped me out. I'm sure he's not short of business if guys like me, just like you, DIYers that want to take a shot at it. He's willing to share that information, so shout out to him. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful.